23rd, 2022, episode 604, No Vacancy Live. How are you today?
You're at the Hunter Conference. What are you hunting for?
Deals, baby, deals.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. All right, it's episode 605, says Dr. Producer Suzanne. I just love the number 4 so much. I used it twice. Anthony Melchiori, so great to see you today. How are you up there in New York?
I'm in Central Park, baby.
Yeah. So listen.
I decided to work from my condo overlooking Central Park. How do you like it?
I like it. I like it. Your apartment yesterday was spectacular, by the way, as well. And also, Anthony, I got to tell you, today is a very special day. My teenage boys turned 18 years old today. I'm legally off the hook. How's that? You know?
That's wonderful and disappointing that you're not there on their 18th birthday.
I know. I wish I was home. But the good news is I'm with two people that I enjoy nearly as much as being at home with my kids. And, of course, we're talking about Keith Pierce and Jordan Langlois at Sonesta. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, we're great. Thanks for inviting us here at the Hunter Conference.
Yeah, well, it's really great to have you here. Jordan, we had you on last July when we were at Alice, and today we're really here to celebrate all the changes that have been going on at Sonesta. I know you recently finally closed on the deal to incorporate RLH Corporation into Sonesta, but it's the 1-year anniversary right about now since you made the deal, right, Keith?
Yeah, it's March 16th of last year, so just a little past 1 year. An incredible amount has been accomplished in that 1 year. March 16th, we did purchase the Red Line Hotel Company.
Right.
Did the public to private transaction, which went incredibly. I relocated out to Denver alongside here with Jordan, and we worked through the course of some leadership transition, some franchisee outreach. Spent a lot of time with our franchisees over the course of the last several months, between town halls and road shows and property visits, really working with our franchisees to understand what their needs and wants are. So from there, we then worked on our integration with the Sonesta Hotel Company. So things like legal and finance and HR and IT. And so we've now successfully integrated the two companies.
Have you guys shared this camera? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem.
There's something wrong with yours. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we've integrated our kind of back of house services, and we seen for 4 of our Sonesta brands: Sonesta Hotels, Sonesta Select, Sonesta ES, and Sonesta Simply Suites. We registered them in September of last year for franchising. And so we're about 6 months into franchising now for Sonesta, and we've had just great interest in our brands. And now it's all about accelerated growth in North America. And soon we will be lighting up Latin America. So by the time we're done this year, all of the Americas now will be franchising 13 of our brands.
Wow. That's a whole lot. Jordan, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good. It's actually really nice to be here. You mentioned Alice. I remember we were having to deal with the sun and I think rotating
right
every 15,
yeah. What is it?
Minutes.
Every time you're on a show, I got to deal with like these issues and stuff like that.
I don't know if I'm gonna get another invite anymore.
That's pretty funny. So again, congratulations on all of this. When you were at the lodging conference, for example, you guys had just kicked off your franchising movement. Man, you've been up to a lot in the last year. So I got to ask you, what is that process like over the entire year? What has it been like for you? Keith, what was those first days like when it all started coming together?
Yeah, look, it's been an incredible journey. The Sonesta Hotel Company has had explosive growth, primarily through the pandemic. A lot of the Marriotts, as many of you know, the Marriotts and the IHGs were taken back and now managed by Sonesta. While that was happening, we had the opportunity to buy the Red Line Hotel Company and the franchising platform of 8 brands and 900 hotels. So it's been, just a great journey, great ownership, great leadership in RMR and SVC. The integration has gone smoothly. We're now based out of the Boston offices, the Newton Boston offices, where Sonesta is based out of. We still have a presence in Denver. We've got about 40 employees out in Denver and have an office out there where Jordan and the team are. So yeah, it's gone really, really well. And we're now in the process of bringing on board new Sonesta franchises. So we have now opened up 4 Sonesta franchises. And and over the course of the next several months, we've got some big announcements to make here. But we are very confident that we'll have a number of Sonesta franchise properties through the next 90 days or so.
That's great. And so I'm curious, how did you manage to get 4 open already when you were only able to start franchising and get all that paperwork done that the government requests of you in like September? It's pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. So we were able to stand up the franchise platform within 6 months after the acquisition. So March to September. And then from September forward, we immediately went into sales mode. As you probably know, we brought on Brian Quinn as our Chief Development Officer.
Oh, and everybody knows from the show last July. If they didn't before that.
Yeah, another Long Island boy. And, and a lot of energy. And Brian's brought a lot of great experience to the table and has helped us build out our franchise development team to be a kind of a best-in-class franchise development team. So we were out selling the Sonesta story even before we were registered. Technically available, ready to sell. So we've been able to bring on properties pretty quickly. We are in the process. This has been a public announcement through SVC of selling 68 assets out of the SVC portfolio. And we've been very fortunate that we've been able to retain a number of those properties, but more to come on that over the next 60 days.
Right. But generally speaking, the whole idea behind that is you could keep the amount of properties the same while still getting a cash influx in order to try to transform the rest of the portfolio to bring it up to the new series of standards that you're looking to attain. Is that right, Keith?
Exactly. It's now that we have franchising as part of the business model for Sonesta, we're able to take these assets, repurpose the capital, move them from the managed side to the franchise side, keep the dots on the map, and keep the fee flow in the house. Yeah.
So Jordan, you're SVP Franchise Operations. What has this been like? Because dude, you've been around. This is now you've had one job, 3 companies, I think, at this point. Vantage, you made it through that. You made it through Red Line. You're now at Sonesta. You must have become a real trusted source for the franchise community out there. What has it been like bringing them along for this journey over the last year?
No, it's been fantastic, and you're right. I've come a long way from the Vantage days, but really enjoy working under Keith's leadership. But it was all about getting back and rebuilding the relationship with our franchisees and owners. So immediately when Keith came on board, we set up we hit the road. We drove from Portland to Sacramento, all and around our ownership in Houston, hosting dinners with everybody that we could continue to tell this story about, really bringing these companies together, putting back a lot of our support services and reducing their costs with a lot of these synergies when these companies come together. So we re-engaged our brand advisory board. So we have 3 boards, and those boards, we had our first all joint meeting last year. And so it's been fantastic of just, again, showing them the value proposition that Sonesta brings to the table.
Well, I mean, with the complete change of the company, there's so many more properties now that you're doing. So that tells me that the franchisees are going to have a lot more benefits and opportunities going forward. But anytime there's, management change, corporations are purchase a company, everyone gets nervous. So you've done a great job at retaining the people, and now it's time to move forward. Keith, how are you seeing the appetite amongst existing folks to start developing new products with you?
Yeah, listen, you're absolutely right. First and foremost, whenever there's a change of this magnitude, there's anxiety, and not only in the team members, but then in the franchise community. So again, very quickly going out to Denver, kind of getting myself personally repositioned out there, working closely with Jordan. As you know, John Russell was the CEO. John's a very, very dear friend of ours, and John did an incredible job stabilizing the business prior to the acquisition. So the transition from John to myself was a very elegant transition, and we were, able to spend time with John last night here in Atlanta and catch up. So, kind of kudos to John.
Yep.
But that transition for us was a pretty smooth one. And to Jordan's point, we very quickly went out there and started to speak with our franchisees. And frankly, it's pretty simple. As long as they know that you're there and that you have their best interests in heart, you really start to then, retain your properties. And we work under 4 guiding principles. The first is drive revenue and drive smart revenue. And driving is the cheapest channel, right? So whatever we do from a marketing standpoint really needs to drive that revenue through brand.com. The second is provide support and services. And look, frankly, the RLH business, prior to COVID had met with some challenges, and there was some reduction in the workforce. So we've been able to rebuild the organization, franchise services, revenue management, field support, right, marketing. So we've been able to rebuild the organization and provide all of those support and services. The third one is reduce costs. Jordan touched on it. We're 1,200 hotels. We're 100,000 rooms. We're one of the largest management companies. We have 10,000 employees. And so with that new scale, we were able to go back to a lot of our providers and partners and renegotiate our price point and pass that on to our franchisees, reduce their operating costs, right?
Yep.
Look at all of our standards post the pandemic and identify those standards that no longer make sense and modify them. So we've been on that journey and we've had great success on it. And then lastly, we got to put more dots on the map. And that's kind of a long answer, Glenn, to your question is you got to put dots on the map.
Yeah.
But before you put dots on the map, you really have to stabilize the business. Right? And that's really what we set out to do over the course of the last year. And we've done that. Our retention rate is really where it needs to be now for a system this size. And we are putting dots on the map. We're growing the business across all 13 brands, right? From Royal Sonesta all the way through to Knights Inn. And we've got growth in every one of the brands.
Just so everybody that aren't familiar with it, of course, there's our Red Lion Hotel, Signature, Guest House, America's Best Value Inn, their Canadian counterpart, and Knights Inn, as you mentioned. So it's gonna be interesting to see how you pull all these together. Anthony, I feel like I've been hogging the conversation here. Let's bring you in. What do you got to say, brother?
Well, I think we broke the world record of me being quiet.
I know. I'm so glad this is recorded, so I have proof of this in the future.
So my question is as people change brands, what are the franchisees asking you? Are there questions that are coming up that you haven't heard before?
Well, Anthony, after 35 years in the business, and I would say all of that in pure franchising, there are very few questions that do come up that we haven't heard before. One of the unique things about the RLH portfolio, frankly, is the fee structure. So when you look at the America's Best Value and you look at Knights Inn, it has a unique fee structure compared to some of our competitors. And that is that it's on a per room per month fee structure. It's not a percentage of the gross room revenue. And that's really unique. When you look across the landscape, particularly in the economy space, there are very, very few, there might be one that actually has a fee structure that way. And so we do get questions around that fee structure. And that's been one of the areas that transaction fees and those other types of fees, we've been able to reduce to increase the value proposition for our franchisees.
I was kind of trying to lead you to when people are buying franchises and getting in the hotel business today, their number one priority is, are you going to be able to staff it? Are those questions coming up?
It is. And again, one of the unique things about this story, this Sonesta story, remember, this is a company that RMR is the corporate entity. Underneath RMR, there are a number of REITs. The REIT in which Sonesta sits in is the SVC REIT, and Sonesta manages approximately $3 billion in assets, and we have 10,000 positions, of which 8,000 positions are filled and 2,000 are open, approximately.
Right.
So when we talk to our franchisees, one of the main issues that comes up often is staffing. The neat thing about this story is that we're right in the middle of it with them, right? Because we've got to find the same staff. We've got to come up with creative ways. So we share ideas back and forth on what we're doing on the managed side so that our franchisees can get the staffing as well. And there are many other examples like that, where the fact that we own and manage really resonates with our franchise. When we ask a franchisee to do a product improvement plan,
Yep.
we're going to do it to our managed estate, right? SVC has publicly come out and said that they're going to do $600 million in product improvement in the managed estate.
I think they announced that in January.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So over the course of the next 3 years, we'll do a material renovation across 225 SVC-owned Sonesta managed properties. And so as we do Sonesta franchises and we give them a product improvement plan, we're asking them to do the same thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's great for the consumer because you need it to keep competitive with your competition because everybody's always improving. So that's what I've seen in the last 20 years, that this competition and or as the brands expand, and really the leaders of these brands who have been in the industry for so long really got the industry, not just their individual brand, but through competition, got the industry where it's really hard to stay at a bad hotel anymore. I mean, the service, yeah, maybe, but as far as cleanliness and hot showers and breakfast, it's like it's really hard to find a bad hotel. Whereas 20 years ago, it was pretty easy. Well, Glenn, you're really good at finding bad hotels.
Yeah, the only thing I would say there, Anthony, is that obviously over the course of the last 24 months and now call it 30 months as a result of the pandemic, there really has been, kind of little capital invested into many of these.
Well, that's what I'm saying. As we get out of this now that everybody's reinvesting, that was kind of my point, that we're going to get back to where it was. Because I really think we have to just put a pin in the 2 years and just say, listen, we all know what's happened. We all know service standards, all that. Put a pin in that. That's not who we are.
Right.
Yeah. The challenge that we're now confronting, it's supply chain, right? It's inflation. And, we've had several conversations with owners, not only that are looking to do material renovation and or build. It's all about supply chain. Right? It's all about, the cost of, we had a conversation with our owners the other day, just to put in like Cat 5.
Yep.
He was saying it was $3 a foot, pre the kind of, global economic issues. And now it's like $60 a foot or something like that.
Are you kidding me?
It was some crazy number, but just small examples like that, and it just adds up.
Up and up and up. Now, interestingly enough, Anthony, Keith, and Jordan, I just came off stage before we started, which is why we're starting at 12:30 today. I had a panel where I talked to a lot of the brand development people for major companies that we all know out there. This is a similar theme that we were seeing out there. That 2 years, Anthony, everybody was talking about that. So you nailed it on that. We all have to try to understand that things have got to come back. Costs are out of whack. We've got to refigure out some things. But they were saying, Keith, that the appetite for development is still there and coming back. But before I have you answer that, Jordan, I haven't heard you speak in a while. I want to get you back in on the conversation. What are some of those issues that you're seeing as SVP of Franchise Operations when it comes to PIPs that might be coming up and how you all might want to accommodate them and making sure that they can continue to be profitable in the future while improving their properties?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I touched on it. I think Keith mentioned it too. We took this opportunity to revisit brand standards, revisit breakfast and how that was done kind of pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. Took an opportunity to look at some of the technology, right? We used to go into a lobby and mess with the lobby reader board. Now nobody wants to touch it anymore.
Right.
So we took the opportunity to look at those, look at the value proposition. If they weren't providing an ROI to either the owner or the guest experience, they came out.
Right.
And we worked very closely with our brand advisory board. We ran all these recommendations by them. And so now, in my opinion, we have very sensible brand standards. The PIPs make sense. The owners have buy-in because, again, it was done in conjunction with our brand advisory board. It wasn't just Keith and I trying to figure out how to make changes. And so the rollout has been well received. And again, case by case basis, if some owners need, again, some additional assistance, we have, vendors that are doing all kinds of capital lending. It's really been, an opportunity for us to put them out there in order to get the properties back up with that 2 year kind of time lapse.
So I'm curious as to what you guys think that the customers are going to be doing over the next 2 years, because one of the things that I've seen is they're demanding, and they're becoming more demanding than ever before, because it's becoming more expensive to stay in a hotel. That's pretty slippery slope that you guys have to negotiate. How are you processing all of that to make sure everyone finds success going forward?
Yeah, and just to go on that, because people don't understand that the service standard sometimes has to be, unfortunately lowered because of labor, and we're taking out maybe daily housekeeping, but we're not even looking at trying to keep the rates in line. We're trying to get the highest rate we possibly can based on supply and demand. That's just our business. So how do you manage that? To Glenn's point.
Yeah, listen, it's a good question. It's one that I think we're all kind of grappling with. In our situation, much like many of our friendly competitors, is we run the spectrum from upper upscale, right, in Royal Sonesta, all the way down through economy. So the answer is a little different, kind of segment by segment.
Fair enough.
As you're in the America's Best Value or the Nights Inn segment, your value proposition, obviously it's a low amenity service value proposition to begin with. And as you go all the way to the Royal Sonesta, then it changes dramatically. In general, what I would say is that over the course of the last 2 years, I think that we've collectively started to get the consumer to accept things like housekeeping, right? I mean, even in this hotel that we're in, you can opt in housekeeping or not, right? And you can go 2 or 3 days without having a housekeeper come. For me personally,
I think it's a win.
I'm great. It's very accepting of that.
Yep. Well, that's one of those things, Keith, that I think all of us as frequent business travelers and conference goers are already doing, putting that do not disturb sign on the door all the time, right?
Yeah, I think the one call it service area and amenity, Anthony, that's going to be pressed is going to be food and beverage, and I think it's going to be breakfast. Frankly, I think we have really cut the breakfast standards down to a minimum across many of the segments, across many of the competitors here, and I think the consumer over time will press us to start to build that back up again.
Right.
And frankly, the minute one of us kind of breaks and puts in the full breakfast buffet again, then it'll probably start the cascading of effects.
I'll tell you what, Keith, I think you're absolutely right. And that panel that I was just on, we also discussed this very issue. And all these major companies are reassessing their breakfast, which is a really good thing, because the breakfast amenity wars have gotten out of control. And it's become to the point where it's not sustainable for the owners of the physical property to be able to provide all these options that a lot of times people say they want, but don't actually utilize. So it makes good sense to pare it down to something that's essential. But Anthony, let me toss it to you. You're the one who takes the family on the volleyball trips and stuff like that. What do you think consumers are thinking when it comes
I'm a simple guy. I just want an omelet. I want a steak. I want sausage.
Cocktail.
Listen, I think there are some hotel brands that got it right, and it's very simple, right? I think there are simple solutions to it, but it's less about even the cost of it, I think, and it's about the labor. It's hard to find someone to show up at 5 a.m. in the morning and to set it up consistently, and to do it, in a real way, and to have really good service. So I think it's going to be challenging. But to your point, Keith, I think you're going to be pressed, and I think kind of like average rate when you go into a market that's slow, and then all of a sudden one management company decides to lower the average rate, and everybody dives into their lower rate.
Right.
So I think it's the same process. But I personally think breakfast is key, especially if our rates are really, really going to stay high. And it's a simple breakfast. But I think breakfast is key because it's a quick way, in my opinion, to show value. When you're taking away the services, you're taking away, maybe you don't have as many maintenance people, so it takes a little bit longer to get up to your room. Maybe you don't have enough front desk clerks, so it takes you another minute at the front desk. So I think it's one way to really elevate the service, but it's challenging. I mean, everybody I talk to, it is their number one Achilles heel.
But I also think it's quality over quantity, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
A lot of people now are assessing the nutritional element of this, right? It's not just a buffet of old soggy eggs and some waffles, right? So if you can do it right, and it kind of meets that health conscious part of it,
Right.
and I think it'll be a home run.
All right, I want to bring this back to the development, because you guys are so focused on the franchising moment right now. What are the banks thinking, and what is it for you to be a relatively new player in the banker's vocabulary?
Yeah, no, listen, we've had a number of conversations with the bank. Sonesta has been around for 80 years,
Yep.
and so it's got name recognition.
I can't think of New Orleans without thinking of Sonesta.
Exactly,
You know?
New Orleans,
Yeah.
our premier Royal
Yep.
Sonesta. But when you start to then talk about lending for the assets, that's now just a new occurrence, right? Because franchising started 6 months ago. And so we've had a number of conversations with the banks, obviously with the brokers, all of the suppliers in the industry, telling the story over and over again. The great, I think that the great silver lining here, again, is that SVC and ownership, we have $3 billion worth of assets that we own and manage. And so we've got kind of great results that we can point to for banks. We are in the process right now of talking to a couple banks because they just need to better understand the story, right? For them to go ahead and lend at the current loan to values, they just need to understand the story. Once you tell them the story, it's a pretty quick sale.
Right. Yeah. Totally interesting. So, in that same vein, when it comes to the banks, one of the things that I always hear over and over and over again is all this money is sitting on the sidelines. When does it actually come off the sidelines? Or am I just going to spend the rest of my career hearing that? What do you guys think?
Yeah, listen, there is a lot of money sitting on the sidelines.
Right.
And if you
But it seems like it's been like that for 25, 30 years.
Well, it's opening up. And again, over the course of the next couple months, we'll be able to share some additional news. But, it's been public that SVC is going through a sales process of 68 assets. Yep. That's been publicly stated. And we've had incredible private capital interest in those assets. And again, over the course of the next 60 days, we'll be able to share more insights as to the result. But there's a lot of capital sitting on the sideline, and frankly, not a lot of assets available for purchase. And they're really hungry for extended stay.
Yeah.
If you've got extended stay assets that you're selling, they're going to move pretty quickly, and you're going to be able to get good terms on them.
Yeah, for sure. Anthony?
Len, the quickest way to get that money from the sidelines, it's like a seagull seeing a fish, right? All of a sudden, the seagulls come out of nowhere when they see a really good fish, right? And you see 1,000 seagulls and you didn't see any. You get a good deal, and that money wants to go to work. That money doesn't want to sit on the sidelines, but that money's going to go to work on good deals. So if there's good deals out there, man, that money just comes in, and matter of fact, they get aggressive. I mean, I've been in that too long ago, about a year and a half ago, where it was really competitive on the deal I was working on, and it got pretty heated because it was a great deal and everybody wanted to fund it.
Yeah, interesting. You guys got something? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say on the aggressive nature of the capital, some of the larger, more mature capital, they can get aggressive because to Anthony's point, they need to put the money out. It needs to go to work, and for them,
they don't make money unless their money's working.
Yeah, and for them to be sitting on the capital, it's not doing what it needs to do for them. And so we came out with 68 assets, 65 of them were listed with CBRE, currently listed with CBRE. We've had incredible success working through the PSAs and the due diligence, a lot of institutional capital. So we'll be able to share more on the results of that here as we start to close out that whole sales process, but it's been very successful.
Now, before we start to wrap up, you guys have been in the extended stay business for quite some time. You just mentioned, Keith, that it's going to be a real powerhouse going into the future. How are you approaching it and getting people on board with Team Sonesta as opposed to all these other brands that are coming out of nowhere now?
Yeah, listen, it's been great for us. We've got Simply Suites, which is mid-scale extended stay, and we've got Sonesta ES, which is upscale extended stay. So we really sit in kind of those two primary and premier segments of the extended stay space. As we all know, it's been for many, many years, extended stay has been a very stable segment in our industry, but more so proven during the pandemic. Right. And as a result, real institutional capital money has come in a big way. You can look across a number of trades that have occurred over the course of the last year. A lot of it's been in the extended stay space. And we're just fortunate that we have critical mass because of all the assets that we took back from IHG and Marriott. So we come out of the box on a franchising side already with critical mass in mid-scale via Simply and in upscale in ES.
Excellent. Jordan, you want to add anything?
I've run extended stay in my career, and what happens, because there's such a there's a lot coming onto the market, right? There's a lot that's there. There's a lot coming on the market, and when it's in the market, extended stay sometimes just becomes a bigger hotel room with less services, getting the same rate, and it kind of loses its extended stay simply because of the market's in, or simply because of the competition. I mean, is there a chance that extended stay is just going to become another box, and it kind of has the 2.1 night stay? I've seen it in my career, and it seems like the more that's dumped in, the more that's a potential.
Yeah, listen, the term extended stay, and I started my career with Hawthorne Suites in 1986 with Joe McInerney. And so I've spent a fair amount of time on the extended stay business. And now, we've got 3 extended stay brands with our guest house in the economy. Extended stay gets thrown around pretty loosely, the term pretty loosely. And the truth be told is in many cases, to your point, Anthony, frankly, it's transient extended stay. You're just getting a bigger box for the same rate. You might stay 1.7 nights or 2 nights.
That's why I fell in love with it.
Yeah. So, but what's really occurring, I would say more of late, is that true extended stay, 7+, it's 7+ to 13 to 21 nights. That, that's true extended stay. And there are a lot of players who are jumping into that space, frankly, because of the operating business model. The margin is just incredible.
So Jordan, I got to bring you in on this, because what we're talking about here is adequately training people. There's the sales folks, for example, have done things the way they've always done things, and it's created a mindset that we sell for this shorter period of time. Reaching out to groups that are going to stay 5 to 30 days or whatever is a completely different way of doing things. How are you guys helping your folks understand that particular model?
Well, I think it's still, working with our groups to understand the product offering,
right?
And in finding those buyers that are looking for the extended stay type of business, right? Because it is very different. We do a lot of training. The property management systems are operated a little differently. Obviously, housekeeping is done a little differently. So we have gone through and kind of revamped through our Sonesta University, all of our training programs to make sure that we accommodate, this kind of change in the guest staying pattern.
And it also comes down to, Glenn, the ownership, right? If the ownership is like, hey, I want heads and beds, and like I just want business, that really blows out your model. So it's really about discipline from the management company, the franchise, and the people driving the rates and signing the contract. So it's a team sport.
Yeah, perfect word for it, discipline, because you've got to do things the right way. All right, gentlemen, I know that you've got meetings and stuff like that. We're here at a big productive conference. How about a couple of final thoughts? Jordan, we'll start with you, and then we'll let Keith bring it home.
Sure. Like we said, Keith mentioned the 4 guiding principles, and that's what really governs us every day, that we follow. We make sure our programs align with those. The 2 that really I focus on is, again, increasing revenue and the support services, and of course reducing costs for our ownership. So as long as that it transcends throughout my organization, and this is what we're delivering to our ownership, the business model works. And at the end of the day, it is about the ownership and the relationships that we have that we've cultivated with our members and franchisees.
Right. Excellent. Keith?
Yeah, listen, 1 year, right? This has only been 1 year in the making, and it starts with incredible ownership, incredible leadership. We've got, just a great sponsor here in RMR and SVC and the leaders behind that business. They've given us kind of the latitude to go ahead and get the franchising platform strengthened and then stood up on the Sonesta side. And we've been able to accomplish all of that in 1 year period of time. And so I would say, can't wait to see what year 2 and year 3 looks like. Where the platform.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, Anthony. Let's wrap this up and get out of here today. All right, everybody. If you want to download our audio feed, make sure you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever it is. And by the way, if you are listening to this all the time in audio, why not check out our video feed? couldn't hurt. Anthony's a pretty good looking fellow, and hey, you got me too. So what are you going to do about that? All right, everybody, let's get out here.
Talking about the looking fellow, look at this fella, huh?
Oh, look at that. All right, let's go. All right, everybody, you got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
we'll see you tomorrow for another special show. Take care.